Hello everyone, welcome to the MotionSpark channel. Today, we will create a 3D iPhone product animation using only After Effects. Without using any plugins, we will build this animation step by step using only the built-in tools of After Effects. Now, let's take a look at how we're going to create this animation. Now, in order to create this type of 3D animation, you need to have After Effects 2024 or a newer version installed, because in this tutorial, we will be using the advanced 3D features that are only available in the newer versions. So if you are using an older version, you will need to update After Effects to the latest version. To create this kind of 3D animation, you will also need a 3D product model. For this reason, go to the Sketchfab website and type the model you want into the search bar to find free models easily. I will type iPhone 17 Pro Max here, and we will see many different iPhone models available. From here, you can choose any model you like. Now, I will select this one. After selecting the model, the 3D model preview interface will appear on the screen. Next, scroll down a little and click on Download 3D Model, and you will see the available download options. Here, find the format we need, which is GLB, and click Download on the 2K option to download the model. Now, to properly light our scene and achieve more realistic results, we will use an HDR file. For this, go to the Polyhaven website. Here, you will find many different HDR options that you can choose from. You can download any HDR you like and use it in your project. I will select this one and look at the options on the top right side. Make sure the file format is HDR and the resolution is set to 4K. There are options available up to 16K resolution, but 4K resolution is more than enough for our needs. After selecting these settings, click Download to download the HDR file. Since I have already downloaded it before, I will not download it again right now. Once these preparations are complete, we can continue working inside After Effects. Now, let's create a new composition and give it a suitable name for our project. Next, go to the 3D render settings and make sure that the Advanced 3D option is selected. If you don't see the Advanced 3D option here, it likely means you are using an older version of After Effects, and you may need to update your software. Once everything is set, click OK to create our composition. Now, let's drag and drop our 3D iPhone model into the scene. With the model selected, hold down the Control key and double-click on the Pan Behind Anchor Point tool. This will automatically move the anchor point to the exact center of the model. This step is very important because all rotation and scale animations will be calculated from the center point. Now press R on the keyboard to open the model's rotation settings. Set the Z rotation value to 90 to rotate the model into the correct orientation. Next, hold down the Shift key and press P to open the Position property. Using the Shift key allows you to display multiple properties at the same time and significantly speeds up your workflow. Now our model is ready for both positioning and rotation adjustments. Now at this stage we are setting the initial position of the model for the first scene. Since I have created this animation before and already know the exact values, I will move through this part a bit more quickly. Next, move forward 10 frames on the timeline and add keyframes for both position and X rotation. Then move forward to 60 frames and adjust the model's rotation and position values again. Here I'm trying to create a motion similar to the original iPhone product animation. This approach helps the animation feel more professional and visually realistic. Now select all keyframes and press F9 on the keyboard to apply easy ease. Finally, open the graph editor and fine-tune the speed curve to achieve the smoothest and most natural motion. Even small adjustments here can significantly improve the overall quality of your animation. Now, let's drag and drop the iPhone 17 Pro PNG image into the workspace. Resize the image slightly and align it carefully so it fits perfectly on top of the model. At this stage, turn off the visibility of the model layer so that only the PNG image remains visible. Now, we need to create a smooth entrance animation for the iPhone logo. First, select the Ellipse tool. Then, draw a circle that completely covers the logo area. This circle will allow the logo to appear on screen with a clean and professional transition. With the shape layer selected, press P on the keyboard to open the Position property and add a keyframe. Next, move forward 60 frames on the timeline and add another keyframe. Then, return to the first keyframe and move the circle outside the frame. This will create a smooth motion where the circle enters the scene and reveals the logo. Now select all keyframes and press F9 to apply Easy Ease. Finally, open the graph editor and fine-tune the speed curve to achieve a smoother and more professional motion. Here, the goal is to make the logo visible only in the area where the circle exists. To achieve this, change the Shape Layer Blending mode to Stencil Alpha. This will make the logo visible only inside the circle area. Now, let's soften the sharp transition around the edges. Go to the Effects and Presets panel and apply the Fast Box Blur effect to the shape layer. Then set the blur radius value to 60. This adjustment will make the logo entrance animation look much smoother and more professional. Now, turn the visibility of the model layer back on. Next, move to the moment where the model tilts and reposition the logo layer to match that position. As a result, when the model tilts, the iPhone 17 Pro logo will start to appear naturally, creating a more dynamic and polished animation. Now let's add a light to our scene. Go to the Layer panel, select New, and then choose Light. In the window that appears, change the light type to Environment. To properly see shadows on the model, make sure that the Casts Shadows option is enabled. Then click OK to add the light to the scene. Now, drag and drop the HDR file we downloaded earlier into the scene. Next, open the light settings, and from the Source option, select the HDR layer. This allows the HDR image to control the lighting of the entire scene and creates more realistic reflections. Now set the intensity value to 20 to slightly reduce the brightness of the light. Finally, open the Transform settings and adjust the direction of the light. Try rotating the light until the shadows and reflections on the model look the most visually appealing. Even small angle adjustments can significantly improve the final result. Now, on the light layer, let's add a keyframe to the Y rotation property. Next, select the model layer and press U on the keyboard to reveal all active keyframes on the model. Move to the exact moment where the model performs its main motion, and at that point, we will animate the light as well. Then add keyframes to both X rotation and intensity properties. Go to the last keyframe on the timeline and set X rotation to 100, and also set the intensity value to 100. Now select all keyframes and press F9 to apply Easy Ease. To improve playback performance, set the preview quality to quarter and run a short preview render to check the animation. Great! Everything looks good so far. Now let's define the duration of the first scene. Move to the 3-second mark on the timeline and select all layers. Then go to the Edit menu and choose Split Layer to cut the layers at that point. After that, delete all unnecessary layer segments at the end. Finally, select all layers again and pre-compose them. In the dialog box, name the composition Scene 1. This way, we organize our first scene into a clean and manageable single composition. Now, to create our second scene, select the Text tool and type your text. After typing the text, move the anchor point to the exact center of the text and use the Align panel to position the text perfectly in the center of the scene. Next, set the text size to 300 to make it larger and more visually prominent. Great, now it's time to style the text color. Go to the Effects and Presets panel and apply the 4-color gradient effect to the text layer. While choosing the colors, I will use the colors from the iPhone logo as a reference. For that reason, I temporarily open the Scene 1 composition to check the logo colors. Now, align point 1 to the beginning of the text and point 4 to the end of the text. Then, use the Color Picker tool to match the colors of the first and last points with the logo colors. Next, place point 2 in the center of the text and adjust its color as well. At this stage, making small and precise adjustments will help you achieve the best visual result. Once the color setup is complete, we can close the Scene 1 composition. Now, select the text layer and move forward 15 frames on the timeline. Here, use Split Layer to divide the text into 2 parts. For the second text layer, increase the size to 400. and double-click the layer to change the text content. As a small visual detail, slightly adjust the positions of point 1 and point 4 colors. This ensures the color distribution is not exactly the same as the first text, making the scene feel more dynamic. After completing this step, move forward another 15 frames and again use Split Layer to divide the text. Repeat the same process here. Increase the size, double-click to change the text, and finally, adjust the color settings. Move forward another 15 frames, split the layer once more, and this time, delete the final cut segment. Now, add a null object to the scene. Select all text layers and use Parent and Link to connect them to the null object. With the null object selected, open the Scale property and create a keyframe. Then, move to the end of the text animation and set the scale value to 110. This will create a subtle zoom effect as the text change, making the animation feel more lively and polished. Next, trim the unnecessary end portion of the null object layer. Finally, select both the text layers and the null object and pre-compose them. Name the composition Scene to Text. Then, move this scene so that it starts exactly at the end of Scene 1. This creates a clean and professional transition between scenes. Alright, now let's create Scene 3. First, bring the iPhone model back into the workspace. Then, align the anchor point to the exact center of the model again. With the model selected, open the rotation settings. First, set the Z value to 90 to rotate the model toward its backside. Next, set the X value to -90. This will position the model perfectly parallel to the ground. Now, hold the Shift key and press P on the keyboard to open the Position property while keeping rotation visible. This allows us to control both rotation and position at the same time. Next, move the model closer to the camera. Lift it slightly upward and bring it closer again. While doing this, place the model slightly outside the camera's field of view, so the model will start just outside the frame before entering the scene. Try to achieve a starting position similar to this. Now, add keyframes to both position and X rotation. Then, move forward 60 frames on the timeline. At this point, position the iPhone model so that it sits exactly at the center of the composition. This makes the model fully visible in the middle of the camera view. Now, select all keyframes and press F9 to apply Easy Ease. Finally, open the graph editor and adjust the curves to create a much faster motion at the beginning of the animation. This will make the model enter the scene quickly and then slow down smoothly, resulting in a more cinematic movement. Now let's add the second iPhone model to the scene. For this model as well, align the anchor point to the exact center of the model. Next, increase the scale value to make the model slightly larger. Now open the Position property and move the model backward along the Z-axis. While doing this, position the model so that it sits directly behind the first iPhone model and overlaps it perfectly. After adjusting the correct size, move the model slightly to the right. This way, the second model will be positioned to the right of the first model in a balanced and visually pleasing layout. Now let's bring the other model into the scene. Press S on the keyboard to open the Scale property and reduce the size of this model. Next, with the model selected, open the rotation settings and set the Z rotation value to 180 degrees to flip the model in the opposite direction. Now press P to open the Position property. Move the model backward along the Z-axis and adjust its depth so it matches the proper size relative to the other model. After setting the correct size and depth, position the model to the left side of the other model. This way, all three models will be aligned side by side in a balanced layout, giving the scene a more professional appearance. Now select both models and press P and R on the keyboard to open the Position and Rotation properties. Next, add keyframes to both position and rotation values. Then move forward 60 frames on the timeline and add new keyframes to the same properties. Now go back to the first keyframe. At this point, move the first model slightly upward. Then move all three models slightly downward. This setup ensures the models start just outside the frame before entering the scene. Next, move to the final keyframes. Here, set the first model's Z rotation value to -1. For the other model, set the Y rotation value to 1. Now select all keyframes and press F9 to apply Easy Ease. Finally, open the graph editor and adjust the speed curves to your preference. Try to achieve a faster start and a smoother slowdown toward the end. This adjustment will make the animation feel more fluid and cinematic. Now go to the exact moment where the first model will come to rest and move both models to that position. You can make small adjustments here to achieve a more precise and balanced result. Next, select both models and open the position settings. Move forward 10 frames on the timeline and add new keyframes for both position and rotation. Open all rotation properties for both models. Also add a keyframe to the other model's Y rotation. Now move forward 60 frames. At this point, move the first model slightly downward and set its Z rotation value to -1. Then move the other model to the upper part of the scene and set its Y rotation value to 0. This creates a separation between the models, making the motion more dynamic. Finally, select all keyframes and open the graph editor to adjust the speed curves. This will make the animation feel more professional and fluid. Now, after a quick check, once the other models have completed their main motion, we open the position property of the first model and add a keyframe. Then, move forward 60 frames and also add a keyframe for Z rotation. Go back to the first keyframe and add another Z rotation keyframe. Next, go to the last keyframe, move the model outside the frame, and set the Z rotation value to 1. Now select all Z rotation keyframes and apply Easy Ease. Then select all keyframes and open the graph editor to adjust the motion speed. We also do quick timing checks and slightly shift keyframes at moments where the models collide. This helps prevent any unwanted overlaps and ensures a cleaner, more controlled animation flow. Alright, now let's add text on top of the models. Here I'm randomly typing iPhone 17 Pro Max 256 GB. Now change the font to Montserrat Bold. Then reduce the size of the text and align it directly on top of the iPhone model. Next, place the text exactly at the moment where the model comes to rest. This ensures that during the animation, the text and the model stay perfectly synchronized. To create entry and exit animations, we will use the Animation Composer plugin. This is a completely free plugin, and I will leave the download link in the description. Since these steps are quite simple, I will speed up this part of the video to keep it more concise. In the next stages, we will simply duplicate the text layers and place them on top of the other models. Now move to the point where the animation ends and select all layers. Then use Split Layer to cut the layers at this point and delete all unnecessary layers after the cut. Next, select all layers again and pre-compose them. In the window that appears, set the composition name to Scene 3. Then, move this scene on the timeline so that it starts exactly at the end of Scene 2. Now, double-click on the Scene 1 composition to open it. From here, copy the iPhone visual created with the shape layer. Then, go back to the main comp composition and paste the copied layer into the scene. Now select the shape layer and press U on the keyboard to reveal all active keyframes. Finally, select all visible keyframes and delete them. Now select the logo layer and use the Align tool to place it exactly at the center of the scene. Then open the Scale property and slightly reduce the size of the logo. Next, move the shape layer directly on top of the logo. With the shape layer selected, open the Position property and create a keyframe. Move to the end of the timeline and add another keyframe. Now return to the first keyframe and move the shape layer to the upper right side of the text. Then select all keyframes and apply Easy Ease. After that, open the Graph Editor and adjust the speed of the keyframes for smoother motion. Now select all layers and extend their duration. Next, select the iPhone logo and duplicate the layer. On this duplicated layer, apply a mask only to the Apple logo. Now, move the anchor point to the exact center of the Apple logo. Move the Apple logo layer to the end of the other layers on the timeline and use the Align tool to center it in the scene. Open the Scale property and increase the size of the logo. Add a keyframe to the Scale property. Then move to the end of the layer and increase the scale value to create a zoom-in animation. Finally, merge this layer with the other layers to close the gap between them. Select all layers and pre-compose them. Give the new composition an appropriate name, and place the final scene exactly at the point where Scene 3 ends. Great. Everything is going smoothly so far. Now move to the end of the animation and press B on the keyboard to shorten the work area. Nice. Finally, let's create a background. For this, create a solid layer and name it BG. The color of the solid does not matter. Now move the solid layer to the very bottom. Then go to the Effects and Presets panel and apply the 4-color gradient effect to the solid layer. Now I will set all colors to black except for one. For color 4, I will change it to this beautiful orange color from the iPhone. Next, I will adjust the position values of the colors. I move the orange color to the top and place the other colors randomly. Now I add keyframes to the position values of all colors. Then move to the end of the scene and change the positions again randomly. Now go to the beginning of the first scene. With the background layer selected, press T on the keyboard to open the opacity property and set the value to 0. Then move to the middle of the first scene and set the opacity value to 100. After that, select the keyframes and apply Easy Ease. Finally, make small previews and fine-tune the keyframe timing to achieve a smoother result. And that's it! We have successfully completed our 3D iPhone product animation step by step. I hope this tutorial was helpful for you and that you can easily apply these techniques to your own projects. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like the video. Also, turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of my upcoming tutorials. Your feedback is very important to me. Let me know what you think about this animation and what topic you would like to see in the next video down in the comments. See you in the next tutorial!